Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, I do understand that we're talking about challenges and overcoming hurdles. I think the first thing that we have to recognize is the challenge that we're the last session of the day. So at this point, you've probably had a pretty heavy breakfast, maybe with the chocolate chip pancakes, with the raspberries mixed in it at the fire and grain, and then you were given that the chicken, the broccoli, followed up by that amazing chocolate something. So I said, you're in Hershey, when in Rome, I guess indulge. So we will do our best to keep everyone engaged. We will make sure that there's plenty of time to ask questions, to share your challenges. I think over the last maybe like 10, 15 minutes of this session, we're going to share our challenges and some possible solutions that we had for those challenges. Depending on where you are with your planning process, I think it would be a good idea that with this group, all of us are here for the same thing, that you can share and maybe we can solve some of these problems as a group. So presentation will probably be shorter than most. Again, hoping to provide some time at the end of the session to plan accordingly. So my name is Ryan Smith. I'm the principal of the Freedom Area Middle School. We house grades 5 through 8. Joining me, we have Sarah Miller, Sarah Hyman, we call them the Sarahs, Jen Vandekar, and Tina Boyd. They are part of our core team. We also have other core team members, but due to some financial decisions, we couldn't bring everyone here with us. So this, in my mind, we have the core team of about 13 teachers made up of all grade levels, learning support teachers, even some aides. We're getting parents involved. But the 4 or 5 of us right here, really, the 4 of them, I'm just kind of I help and support them. But these guys make things work at our school. So we're gonna start getting into who we are and what we are doing. So as I mentioned, we're Freedom Area Middle School, very small school, about 1,300 students, K through 12. Within the middle school, it's 435. And that fluctuates. I would consider our population pretty transient. I believe over 50% of our housing is, leased or rented. So we have students coming in and out of the district. And when we started planning for implementation of PBIS, we obviously took that into consideration. We're located in Beaver County. It's about 30 minutes north of Pittsburgh. So we have we have a lot of resources around us, but not necessarily within our district. So that's another challenge that we'll discuss throughout this session. We do have 48 staff members, about 35 full-time staff members with some learning support aides, student aides, secretaries, and others. And as you can see, that number, 54.9 free and reduced lunch, and that's what's reported. That number is probably a little bit higher. I've heard somewhere at the ballpark of 60+%. So for all the schools out there, you can kind of understand where we are going and what we do, because I'm sure in some capacity you may share some of those same demographics. There's our beautiful school. So it's about the school itself. I want to say it was built in the 60s, and then 1999 they added a whole new front to everything. So it's pretty, it's open, it's bright, it's clear. People walk in and they always compliment just how welcoming the facility is, and that's really who we are. We're a small town, and everyone knows everyone within our town. There's advantages to that, but there's also many disadvantages that you can imagine with some gossip, and clearly we're going to be getting into that with some of the pushback we receive on social media. I don't want to miss any talking points here. So obviously the audience that we're looking at today, so by a show of hands, how many in here are in the planning stages? You have not rolled out year 1. So show of hands, planning. That's awesome. How many people are in here are almost, a couple weeks left of school through year 1 implementation? And the dozen or so hands, I'm going to look to you to see what type of challenges that you had throughout year 1 and to see how consistent it is. I recognize at the middle school level that it may be different than the elementary and then at the high school level. Again, show of hands, who's elementary? Middle? High school? Oh, very well, I'm very interested. You guys raise your hand on both, year one and at the high school level. Very good. So I'm excited because that's the audience we were looking for. That's how we worded this situation so we could get the most people here. Probably more specifically, we're looking at the people that are here that are in the planning stages. So the next step is, what happens from here? You only have about 3 or 4 weeks of school left, correct? Teachers leave Friday, June 6th, June 7th, correct? Give or take a week. What happens? That is a significant challenge, significant hurdle that 80% of you are going to face today. This is our third conference. The first conference, I guess 2 years ago, we were sitting here, we had all these exciting opportunities of what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, laid it out, put it on paper. It looked beautiful. That's probably where you guys are right now. But then you realize, wait a minute, it's the second, third week of May. I still need these same teachers for the next 3 weeks. You got finals coming up. Keystones are currently, correct? You just finished up PSSAs. How in the world are you going to meet? I don't know how many in-service days you guys have coming up. I know Freedom, we just had our last in-service day last Friday. We're done. Students finish Friday the 6th or the 7th. We graduate. Monday, it's an in-service day, but however, if the teachers do a few things over the course of the year, they don't have to come that in-service day. So how are you going to get people there? That right there for everyone year one is going to be your biggest challenge. But as I said, through this process, we will provide some solutions to that. You're going into year one. You want to knock this thing out of the park. You're going to plan and plan for hours because what you're about to put forth is going to be that first impression. And you know you have to knock it out with the first impression. You have to knock it out with your staff right now. You have to knock it out with your parents. And most importantly, you have to make sure you are dotting your I's, crossing your T's, so that your students are engaged and buy in from day one. So some of the things that we are going to look at today, and I have in addition to the objective. First one, making a school-wide change. That starts in the first in-service day in August with your staff. What does that look like? How are you going to do it? It starts day one with your students on the first student day. It has to look different than what it looked like this year. Even if for the people that are in year two, going into year three, that has to look different. You have to keep it fresh. Planning is a crucial role into keeping it up, keeping it fresh. As I said, you're also looking at curbing student pushback. I have to admit, I don't know at the secondary level, I don't know how you do it. Because living in the middle school world, I'm grades 5 through 8. The difference between how our students in 5, 6 respond in 7, 8, night and day. So we, as in kind of having that elementary feel 5, 6, and then that secondary 7, 8, we face those challenges every day. What do you do about it? So I'd love to hear eventually from the secondary, how are you implementing this? How are you planning to engage students that are 9 through 12? Addressing social media backlash. I don't want to steal any thunder from you guys, but you have to understand, at Freedom, and you can look it up right now, and maybe all of the districts in here. I don't know, anyone from Beaver County? That's good, because I don't want to say too much. There is a site called Freedom Area Concerned Parents. How many in here have a site on Facebook like that? Oh, it's discouraging. But that's social media. And what do you do about that? How do you get people to understand actually what's happening in New York, in the building, in the classrooms? Because they hear something, they may see something, next thing you know, you're all over social media. You need to be ready for that. And it's amazing that I'm talking about social media at a PBIS conference. It's a positive thing, right? For once, as a district, as a school, you are acknowledging students that are making great decisions. That was not always the case, especially for the year one, for the planning stages. The focus has always been somewhat negative, discipline, consequences. What do you do about those students? Now we are addressing the other end of the spectrum. We're making sure the students in the middle are no longer lost. And we're still getting pushback from our parents that it's not enough. Or why are you doing this? It's against the norm. Because that's not what we did when most of their parents were in school. Second to last one, again, I will make an addition to this slide, maintaining teacher morale all year long. You will have teachers that absolutely push back on this idea. I know even to get into the planning stage, I believe it was around 80%, correct? Buy-in, and you have the IU come in, do the presentation, you do the initial survey. Are you getting that buy-in? If you get that buy-in, then you move forward with your planning with support from the IU. Well, that's all fine. You'll probably get your 80%, but we all know what's the biggest challenge. It says 20% of I was going to say students, which is reality as well, but 20% of our staff members can really damage this. What happens if all 20% in one grade level? So grades 5, moving and grooving, 7's moving and grooving, 8 looks great. Grade 6, they're not hitting the mark. What happens? What do you do about that? How do you get them engaged? How do you show them? How do you show them that this program can work without having no evidence right off the bat? And that will be a challenge. So as much as you sell it to the community, as much as you sell it to the students, you better be ready day one to sell it to your staff, because that will make or break the situation. I think eventually they're going to talk about administrative buy-in. I wanted to talk first as the principal, saying, like, you know, I guess I'll pat myself on the back, but there's not many things I've said no to when proposed, because I am so passionate about this idea, because I always felt that, unfortunately, when I was in the classroom, I don't feel like I acknowledged those students enough, and that needed to change, and this is providing the opportunity to change that. The last thing that's not on the objective, that as we were kind of planning it out over the last couple weeks, and actually just sat down by the fire by the chocolate martini place, yeah, you guys were there last night, I know it, was the fact of cost. 2 years ago, there was a substantial grant of, I believe, $12,000. Did anyone get the $12,000 grant last year? Oh, wow. Did anyone get any grant monies this year? Okay. So obviously, how are you going to come up with the money to sustain that? Does your school budget support that? Does your business manager support that? Does your superintendent support that? There are many things that you can do that are free, but you're going to have to get creative with funding this programming. From the signage that you use in your building, to the small, medium, and large tokens that you provide to your students so they stay engaged, to the things that you do for your staff, luncheons, Starbucks gift cards, to make sure that they stay engaged and maintain high morale. The biggest sustainability piece for this program is absolutely the cost factor. And you're going to want to you're going to spend, maybe not tonight, tomorrow, and the rest of the week or the rest of the year planning how you're going to sustain the program so you can financially support it the best way you can, because that will absolutely be a hurdle. And again, we will provide some solutions to that, but it all depends on your community, donors, things of that nature. So with that said, I'm hoping I hit all of my first talking points. I'm going to turn it over to Sarah Miller. She's going to talk about what does that first objective, what does it look like for the school-wide change? And as I said, starting with your staff first in service day next August, starting with your students first school day in August. Thank you so much, guys.
Okay, so a lot of you are in that exciting stage where you've sat through some presentations today. You're really excited. You have all of these ideas. You're going to go back to your school, and you want to get that started with rolling out. But what you really need to have is the support, like Ryan said, of your administration and your staff. And we were lucky in that when we had a program similar to the PBIS, ours is called Pause, previously, that we had kind of tried on our own without any training, and it had kind of died off a little bit. And right at the time that we were getting started with starting the actual PBIS training process, we had a change in administration, and Ryan came on board, and we said, we want to do this, and we want to take our Be a Bulldog program that we had before and roll it into something better, and he just kind of let us run with it. So I know that's not something that, if you're sitting here and you're thinking, man, my principal doesn't get it, or my superintendent isn't supportive of this, that's not something, that's a hurdle that you face. But having that buy-in and trying to get that person on your side, that really makes things roll so much better. The first thing that we did when we started, our first hurdle is really making that school-wide change. So like Ryan mentioned, you're excited about implementing positive behavior, recognizing students that maybe haven't been recognized before. And what we wanted to do is really start off from the beginning of the school year on the very first day with a different philosophy. So what we had done previously in the middle school, kind of the kids would come in on the first day and they got their planners and they went to each of their classes. We have an 8-period day. They would meet each of their teachers. They would tour the building. They would get their syllabus and their books. And are you understanding how boring, like just saying this, I'm like, why did we think that was a great idea to do on the first day of school? And so what we really wanted to do was, yes, we're rolling out our new Pause program, but we want the kids to leave on that first day and say, I'm so excited to be at Freedom Middle School. This is going to be a great year. We have this great program. It was a lot of fun, and be excited about doing that. But like he said, we left on June 6th with all of these great ideas for a kickoff on the first day of school, but you come in, you have 3 days of in-service right before the kids come, and how do you make that happen? So we spent a lot of time that first summer. So if you're sitting here and you're planning a kickoff to start next August or September, plan on spending a lot of time this summer planning. And part of having the support of your team and your principal makes that really fun, because, looking forward to making those changes. But we wanted the kids to come in on that first day and really be excited about what the year had in store. So we did spend a lot of time over the summer planning that first day. And then what would happen after that first day as far as the lessons and things like that and how we were going to roll out the year. But you do need to account for the time that you will need over the summer to get that ready. We did introduce the program at the end of the school year before we implemented. So the faculty knew what was to come the following year. They knew how the tokens would work. They knew what the expectations were. We had faculty buy-in as far as putting our matrix together and our expectations. So we left school at the end of the year in May or in June saying, this is what we're going to do when we come back. And then we spent a whole day when we got back explaining what everybody's role would be. So we really had every faculty member, every staff member had a role in that very first day kickoff. And what we did was we said, here's the list of what we need. We need faculty members in the gym. We had a t-shirt for every student when they walked in the door. We had music playing and balloons. In the gym, every student got a t-shirt. We were welcoming them, escorting them to breakfast if they went to breakfast or to the auditorium. And we gave that list of where we needed people to be and they signed up for what they were comfortable with. And if they didn't sign up, then we just told them, this is your assignment on the first day. And so everybody was out there. Everybody was involved with welcoming our students on that very first day. And then the kickoff, that's part of the kickoff responsibilities for all of the staff members. So our core team really spent that time putting together what that would look like, but then we got the entire faculty and staff involved. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what our first day actually looked like. So like I said, we really wanted it to be not just, hi, this is the first day of school, but welcome back. Welcome to Freedom Middle School. We are so happy you're here. This is going to be a celebration of the first day of school, not just the start of something, mundane and boring. Part of that was on the last day of in-service, right before the first day of school for the students, we had all of the faculty come out at lunchtime and write messages. I know sometimes PTAs do this or parents come in and do this and put positive messages to the students out on the sidewalk to say, awesome students enter here. The whole walk was chalked with positive messages for the kids. And that's when they got off the bus, we had some faculty members outside welcoming them, pointing them in the right direction to come into school. So there were really 3 parts, I guess, of our first day kickoff. First, welcoming the students as they got there. And then we had an assembly in the auditorium and also in the gym. So I'll explain each of those. So Chalk the Walk was just something that they could see right when they got off the bus, something positive to welcome them. Our PTA did give us a little bit of money, and part of I think the grant that first year, we were able to buy the shirts that we have on. We had the same ones for students, but a different color. Every student got a shirt that morning. Some of them did put them on that day, which was really what we had hoped that they would do. A lot of them had their first day of school outfits that they were really excited to wear, and so maybe they wore that the second day. Last year, we actually decided to do it on the first Friday of school, so that they could wear their first day outfits and we could have a pause day on Friday. We had music and decorations in the lobby, in the gym, and like I said, all staff was part of that welcoming committee. And then the students came in, went to the auditorium or to the cafeteria, and then to homeroom. So we had about 15 minutes in homeroom where we took attendance and did those kinds of things. And then we brought everybody up to the auditorium. And during that part of the kickoff is where we actually kicked off the program. And so we explained what that was going to be. We explained what the tokens would be, what they would earn the cards for, what they could redeem the cards for, the prizes and things like that. In order to have the kids be a part of that, Sarah is our librarian. She actually hosted a Family Feud game. So we had the kids participate in that. They came up on stage. We had each of our 5 focus areas. And we had them give, what should behavior in the hallway look like? And they gave those answers, and Sarah hosted it as Family Feud. In between each of the Family Feud rounds, we had teachers that we assigned every teacher to be a part of a skit. And so we also demonstrated, what the behavior should not look like with the adults doing that, and then also what the behavior should look like. So we illustrated all of that, and that was probably an hour or so, hour and a half maybe, of going through all of those expectations, what that was going to look like, what our tokens would be, how they could earn them, and then to reveal our prizes. We had about 10, maybe 8 to 10 big prizes that the kids could earn at the end of the year for our Olympic Day, which is one of our fun days at the end of the year. We revealed what those would be. We actually put them in a trophy case right in the lobby for them to see all year what they were working toward. From the auditorium, that was enough sitting for middle school kids, so we got up and we took them to the gym, and then we had 1 activity per grade level that involved all of the students in that grade level. So we did a rock, paper, scissors chain for one grade level, a couple different things where everybody was involved. The kids were up and moving. They were getting to know each other. We're a pretty small school, like Ryan said, so the kids, pretty much know each other, but it was nice to just welcome them back in that way, get them up and moving. And then we had dance contests, half-court shots, and we had prizes that we gave out that day too. So that was our whole morning. There was no sitting in their homeroom. There was no getting their planner or their schedule. It was really just a lot of fun activities for what we wanted to kind of set the stage for the year. And that took us up to lunchtime. And then they went to lunch and went back to class in the afternoon just to kind of do a brief meet the teacher for each of their classes. So that was our kickoff that took, like I said, a lot of planning over the summer, and we had all of our faculty involved. So it took a little bit of explaining to some of those, especially 7th and 8th grade faculty members who are used to I have to give out my syllabus on the first day. Well, you can get it on the second day and it'll be okay. So we really, part of the hurdle is kind of changing that expectation or changing that climate from the very first day. But our goal really was the kids would go home and tell their parents that they were excited to be here. And the positive change for the staff, I think we had a lot more fun on that first day than we ever had, and that really showed also to the kids. So that our enthusiasm, I think, wore off on the students a little bit also. So you can see in the morning the shirts that we had in the gym as they were coming in, and the Family Feud game that we had in the auditorium, and then some of the games that we had going in the auditorium with everybody up and moving. So Sarah's going to talk a little bit about the staff reactions to that first day.
Okay, so this is a quote from, as you can see, a hard-to-impress faculty member. So this person said, "This is the best thing we've had at Freedom Middle School. Keep up the good work." Said that after our kickoff. We looked at each other, we're like, yes, we got this, right? And then, kind of as the kids settled into that first week, we're like, oh, we got some pushback. That's okay, we are ready for this. So during that first week, we came up with rotations. We taught the lessons as we were, taught that we should do. Here are our 5 areas. Our 5 areas at our school were the hallways. Our district has kind of consolidated in the past few years. So we went from a building of having 3 main hallways to having all 4 grades in 2 hallways. So during class exchange, you kind of had to put the hands up. I'm a short person, put the hands up, kind of defensive mode during class exchange. So that was one of the main areas we wanted to work on through our pause program. So we had the hallways, the bathroom, how we act in the auditorium, the cafeteria, and our outdoor areas. So we assigned 1 teacher per area, and we taught that lesson 20 times that first week of school. We wanted every single student in the building to hear the same message from one person. So while it was a lot of repeating yourself and answering the same kind of questions, we thought that was important, that the same message was going out to everyone. So I got the unlucky job of teaching the hallway. So let me go. So here's an example of one of our hallways, and we went back and forth. How do we help the kids in the hallway? How do we do this? An idea was brought to us. Put a line down the middle of the hallway, have the kids walk on the right-hand side. Sure, sounds great, right? But how do you actually make that happen? We did, it was August. Do we do it? Do we not do it? I went to Walmart. I bought a bunch of blue tape. I said, we're doing it. So the worst that can happen, we pull out the blue tape. It didn't work. But we have to try something. So we laid these blue lines down the hallway. Students have to walk a loop. They can't cross the line. And there's a couple breaks in the middle of a hallway as they go. There's breaks in front of the restrooms and things like that. That was one of the main changes that first day of school. And that was one of the main things that we heard. Why do we have to walk on the right-hand side of the hall? Why do I have to walk the loop? As Sarah mentioned, the previous school year in our planning phases, We got buy-in from the teachers. We created our matrix. We even asked the kids to help us. What does it look like in the hallway? Well, you walk, you don't run. We phrased it in a positive manner. So they understood that the hallways were a mess. So we're like, well, you're walking on the right-hand side of the hall because the hallways are crazy. So that was one of the first things that they're like, oh, I don't know about this. But then we had to remind them, well, you're the ones who came up with these things. This is how we decided to go with it, but you recognize that the hallways were crazy. So we're trying to help you stay safe in between class change. So as I was teaching these lessons, 5th grade, they got it. They can walk on the right-hand side of the hall. They're coming up from the elementary school. They knew what to do. Get up to 8th grade, this is stupid. Why do we have to do this? So, you repeat yourself and you repeat yourself and you repeat yourself. And I was like, all right, let's go. Let's walk a loop. Let's see. How many extra steps really is it? Maybe 5, 13 at most? You're fine. You'll be okay. And then there were areas where yeah, you know what? You're right. We should maybe make a break in this hallway at this point. In my hallway in front of the library, there were student restrooms. I was out doing hall duty. I'm like, standing there, I'm like, we forgot to put a break in the line for the boys to go to the restroom. They would have had to walk all the way down the hall and back around. So right there, I bent down, made a T in the line. So we were willing to listen to the student feedback, fix some of the things, but on the other, we're not putting a break in front of every classroom. That defeats the purpose. So we just had to keep explaining to them, this is for your safety, this is what we're doing, and not kind of give in to what they were saying. But they were going home and complaining, so therefore it ended up on social media, like Ryan said. This is, we heard it all. So on the concerned parents page, but we didn't address it on there. At open house, we always welcome our parents in. Ryan kicks it off in the auditorium with a welcome message. Right then and there, he addressed it. He said, I'm sure a lot of you can see the lines in the hallway. Let's talk about it. And he kind of explained the reasoning, the safety issues and things like that. He invited parents down to talk to him afterwards. And there weren't too many people, I think, that took him up on that to actually go talk to him. But then you did hear in the hallways, got to stay on the right-hand side of the hall, got to do this. But I think the parents then saw, well, it's really not that big of a deal. We, at the time, we had a student of a school board member who was in our building, and she addressed one of our teachers, well, why are you making this change? Well, again, it's for the safety of the students. Just, keep on your message. And she walked the loop. Oh, well, it's really not that bad. No, it's not. So you just have to keep on going, keep on explaining the reasons behind your decision. Ryan even offered a coffee talk with the principal. We put it out there. I think maybe a handful of parents came to talk about issues at the middle school, and maybe one parent brought it up. But at the same time, this is a decision that we made for our students. So it was on there for a while. It died down. It was fine. We replaced the blue painter's tape with black industrial tape. It was fine. Our 7th and 8th graders still don't really love it, but, I do see them walking the loop. Or if sometimes a teacher's doing something real quick and they'll see you, you got to go walk the loop. So now it's become part of our culture of Freedom Middle School. So it's not a bad thing. And I will turn it over to Jen to talk about maintaining teacher buy-in.
So as we all realize and recognize is that it's very important for all of our teachers to be on board to help to support the students day in, day out in their classrooms with this new culture that we're creating. And so we took a few steps to try and encourage them and to thank them. In our the way that the situation is with budget constraints in many districts, a lot of the maybe extra little things that districts were once able to do for our teachers have not been able to be, continued. So it's really important to not to dismiss or underestimate what you're doing for your teachers, to tell them thank you for participating and encouraging not only the team working through the process, but also for our students. So one thing that we did do was a coffee bar for our teachers. It was right around Christmas time. And we didn't, it was a beautiful display with a lovely tablecloth and coffee. There was hot cocoa and a lot of different little extras, whipped cream, chocolate chips, things like that. But teachers really appreciated being able to come down in the morning and have a little treat, chat before we got started with our day. And it was very well received. For the work that went into it, it isn't terribly, major labor intensive. Another thing that we did was we gave out gift cards during our faculty meeting. You announce that you're going to do that. We had teachers that said, "Oh, I never win anything," or, kind of, a little bit dismissive of it. But when their name was called, teachers got a great big smile. It was exciting that we gave out like Starbucks gift cards. We also gave out chocolate bars. That was a really nice treat. I think I actually got one. I really appreciated that. But it was nice to see the smiles and, again, the token of appreciation for all that they're doing to make our program successful. Another thing is we have a grill at the school now, and Ryan went out and grilled hot dogs for the staff. We gave for lunch one day. And again, it may seem, like a small thing to do, but it was really appreciated. We had teachers who don't normally come down to the faculty room to eat together, come down, stop by. And it really just, again, helped to continue our cohesiveness as a group through this process. In fact, it was so well received that what we ended up doing is during one of our in-services is we did a grab-and-go lunch, invited all of the teachers in our district to come down and purchase a lunch from us. We had the members of our team make different sides, donate bottles, cases of water, cans of pop, desserts. And so the teachers got to come down. If we had the opportunity to tell them about what we were doing in our building, and it was a great fundraiser for us as well. And again, it just kind of brought us all together, and it was just a fun afternoon. We enjoyed serving and being able to talk to everyone. And most importantly, I think that keeping teachers involved is seeing the difference that we're making with our students. That's why we all show up every day. And I think that many times our students who are following the rules, doing what they need to each day, tend to at times be taken for granted that they're just doing that and they should do it because that's the way that it should be. And we don't want to see those students feel dismissed because we're giving so much attention to the students that aren't doing what they need to. And so seeing the students light up when they hear their name on the announcements for having their card pulled that they won one of the prizes, they got one of our Principal 100 tickets and to go down and pick their number. It's really been inspiring to the staff to be able to see those students be like, what I do and the choices I make each day really do matter. And not only that, but it's being recognized by the teachers who I look up to, and they want our encouragement. They want to make us proud. It's important. And so really we've made a big, it's a big difference in our school because of that, and seeing those students react in such a positive way. And I think that a lot of our teachers who you may have had some, were skeptical, realize that when they're making that effort in class to hand out a card to a student or have that conversation has been very important. So I think that just making sure you're telling your staff thank you, that it adds up for these students, is a really important way to continue what we do. Let's see. Down. Okay. There we go. So we just have some pictures there of our team there who showed up and set up this beautiful, our coffee bar, teachers coming in the morning, and Ryan out there grilling as well. It was just enjoyable opportunities for our staff to get together. And here's Tina.
Hi, our last and final hurdle was cost, which is a substantial hurdle for all of us. as Ryan said, we're not a very wealthy school district. I think we have 3 or 4 businesses that offer tax revenue to our school district. So we don't have that income coming in like other school districts. So we had to come up with very creative ways to sustain our program. Like I said, the first year we had these visions of grandeur of how we were going to run our program. We were going to do all of these wonderful things to help ourselves. And then we found out, thank you, that guess what? We don't have the money to do some of these things that we really, really wanted to do. So we had to make some really tough decisions about which directions we were going to go, what we were going to keep, and what we were not going to keep. We decided that our signs and posters were really things that were going to keep us throughout the school year, because we have signs in every classroom in all of our 5 areas. So we decided to go with something a little bit more extravagant than using oak tag and the school copier to do that. So we did really nice posters from Vistaprint to put into the classrooms and into the hallways, and they were laminated, and they have withstood, which really helped us along the way. We've had to replace a few last year. We made a little order, but it really held up. Our wonderful little Principal's 100 sign was a combination of multiple things. We ordered the sign. We couldn't afford to put the pockets on. So we sat together one day and cut plastic, and it was a chore, but it was a fun chore. We did it together, and it really, really helped. But sustaining those things, you forget that after the first year, oh my God, I have to replace all of these things. And our token cards, we actually last year ran out of them, our incentive cards that we pass out to the kids, and we were like, oh my gosh, we ran out, because we used extra ones during PSSAs as an incentive program, and we had to reorder. So finding the money for all of these wonderful things became very, very difficult. Along with that, we had our prizes that we had to purchase. We were lucky we had a donation from our director of curriculum who helped, and she says, like, our family wants to donate a TV for you this year. So that helped, derail some of the cost. We had to order new shirts for our 5th grade class that was upcoming. The PTA was like, hey, we'll give you some money. And then it kind of fell through for us, and we were like in a bad spot. Some of the things we did, we have found ways to find money. Black Friday, we highly encourage shopping Amazon and all your stores Black Friday. The after Easter sales, I mean, we've bought a ton of candy after Easter sales at Walmart because everything's 50 to 75% off. So we hit it hard. We try to find clearance sales all the time to help with those kind of things and help to budget our money a lot better. Jen talked about the hot dog bar that we have. We've also, this year, we're trying to implement a new little incentive for our teachers to help keep our program going. And Ryan's like, hey, why don't we have Monday dress down days for the whole school year? And he's like, if we charge each teacher, I know this sounds bad, $100 at the beginning of the school year, and you can dress down the first day of every school week, then wow, we could buy all new shirts for our kids next year. So we sent out a survey. We're waiting for all of our responses, but we're about 50 to 75% of the teachers are buying in and like saying, hey, we'll pay $100 to dress down every Monday or Tuesday. So that was one of the things. We don't know how much pushback we're going to get up above that, but he's all in for it. It was his idea, so we're really excited about that. I was like, yeah, I'll pay my $100 any day for that. We sold paw prints to family members to help sustain our program. We're like, hey, $10 donation, we'll put your name on a paw print and hang it on the front of the school when you walk in, saying that you're a partner for our PAWS program. We had a good turnout for that. And we partnered with a local greenhouse of students that we have in our district, and they helped curb the price for mums. We sold mums at open house. That raised us a nice amount of money. And we've also partnered with Chipotle and did like a restaurant, families come in and eat, and that worked out really well. We got really lucky this year. Our football team did really, really well in the playoffs, and we actually, for the first time in God knows how many years, had a home game. And of course, because everybody was excited, none of the football parents wanted to work, me being one of them. And they said, hey, wouldn't it be great if we had somebody to work our concession stand for us so that the parents didn't have to work it and they could watch their kids? So the school board member, one of the school board members said, why don't we ask that pause program with the teachers, because all the money goes back to the kids, and that way we're giving money back to our own kids. So she approached me and said, hey, would your group be interested in this? So I went back to the group and we're like, yeah. And what ended up happening was great, because all of us worked, we set up, our families came and helped work, our husbands. We had teachers that donated their time. They said, hey, we'll give you, I think it was like $500 to work our concession stand. They were so excited. It went so well. They ended up giving us, was it $700 or $750 for work in the concession stand? And not only that, but we had a great time doing it. We laughed. Everybody got along really, really well. It built a nice community of people within ourselves. But we're always looking for creative ways. We never turn anything down, any opportunity that we have, because, and we try to tell this to our staff and to our community, that every cent that we goes right back to our kids. It's not for anything for us, but it's strictly for our students. And I think that helps us a lot. And we've had a lot of companies say, hey, we'll give you some money. We had the jumping place? Get Air, and they were like, hey, we'll give you a bunch of passes. They gave us like 20 passes, which was like $700 worth of passes for our kids, and the kids were loving it. They're putting their cards in for those kind of things. So you have to kind of beg sometimes, but it works. It really does work. Okay, I'm gonna pass it back to Ryan.
We're going to close it up here very soon in about the next 10 minutes, then hopefully open it up for some suggestions or recommendations. So as we all know, it takes a village. You know, a lot of you have probably seen that pyramid with your tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, because we took a little bit of a spin from that. So you got your student engagement up top, your faculty support, your core team pursuit, and then your administrative inspiration. Some of the things that we presented to you today, obviously, were challenges that we faced. There are many more, and I'm sure out there you've already faced a few. And we just hope to provide some solutions to some of those problems. Even with our ongoing problems that we thought we had solutions, we have to revisit again. You know, we're coming out here, we're getting some good ideas from all of the sessions that we were a part of this morning, and hopefully we'll continue to gain some good ideas and experiences tomorrow, I should say, because we're always open to change. I was actually someone that was sitting next to me while we were eating lunch. They were in year 8, and I'm in year 2. So I'm thinking to myself, my goodness, I already see the challenges and the pushback that I'm getting after 2-3 years. I can't even imagine what that looks like 8-9 years in the program, how you got to constantly refresh, how you constantly have to kind of reinvent, rethink of what you were doing so you can stay innovative, so you can stay aspiring and engaging through everything, because because it's such a huge initiative, because if it's done right, it will absolutely change the climate and morale for your students and your staff. You have to have buy-in, and you got to keep it up. Some of the things that I wanted to share with you up front, we do have a handout. This is up in the office, so all the parents, when they come in, we gave it at open house. We'd like to share that with you. I just counted. There's 67 of you in here. We have, I think, 66, so sorry, maybe one person can share. So we do have that. I also wanted to show through the Vista print, these are our smaller tokens. It's a business card size, and it has our Be a Bulldog with our acronym. And on the back, the students will fill that out and drop it in. We have a couple boxes for the in front of my office, and we draw on a weekly basis to give students some prizes that are free, maybe extra time here in the first fast pass to lunch, extra time in the gym, but there's also some prizes, gift cards, and other large prizes that are based off the smaller token. We have some examples of those. We do have a quick, maybe a real short video of some of our student statements that we'd like to share with you. So give me a moment. Maybe.
At Freedom Middle School, We are Bulldogs!
We have positive attitude.
We're accountable for our behavior.
We make wise and respectful choices.
We are successful.
We just thought that was kind of neat in how passionate those kids, and obviously that was grades 5 through 8. I mean, yeah. Maybe. So before we get into questions, like I said, for our first year, and you're in that planning stage, you have to be creative. You have to think outside the box. Make sure you put the right foundation over the next couple weeks. Get your administrator's support because you will have to come in this summer. I don't know what that looks like. Do you get comp days? Do they pay you? Is it voluntary? Those are things you need to work out. But always remember, the time that you put in, the effort that you put into this summer will pay off huge dividends. So if it's giving up some of your time in the summer, you know, that may hurt. You may not be out at the pool, getting the sun, maybe having a drink, but I can guarantee you the payoff next year is immense. So please consider that. Some of the cost factors, they're real. One thing I wanted to share with you that I didn't at the beginning, I said a show of hands who received the grant last year or 2 years ago. I don't believe anyone did, which is, I can imagine, overwhelming. If any of you are familiar with the new Act 44, Safety and Security, I'm actually the lead on that for my school district. There was a $25,000 grant given to every single school district for maybe a physical resource, maybe, you know, when I say something for an entry point or jam locks for your doors, you know, for intruder comes in. But another way that you can write that grant, and we did it, and that's why we're here, is you can write it for professional development. Please tell your administrators. You can write it for professional development next year in order to satisfy PBIS, you know, approach or process. We wrote it for the middle school to continue our program. Our elementary school, K to 4, wrote it for implementation for next year. Without that grant, we would have had some challenges. But next year, Freedom Area School District, K through 8, PBIS school. Very excited about that opportunity. So please keep that in mind. I'm going to open up for kind of questions and answers. Anyone out there have recommendations, suggestions, things that we missed, want to share your own challenges, have questions for us? It's open to you now. I think we have about 7 minutes, and then we're out of here. Yes? Absolutely, that's a great idea. Thank you for sharing. Yes? Yeah, great question. So the first grant was $12,000. So we were making it rain. I mean, literally, we could do what we wanted. We were giving TVs away, Bose systems. I mean, we were doing everything under the sun, Xbox systems. I will say prize-wise, what about $4,000? About $4,000 for prizes, $500, $600, $700 for signage, and the rest was professional development, 4 sessions throughout the year for sub-coverage transportation, and then the money to support the money to support us coming out here to learn from all of you. So I want to say, you know, about $7,000 for PD, about $1,000 for the signage and just kind of like the tape that go down the middle, and then another $4,000, $2,000 for the T-shirts. We had every student at $5 a piece. We bought every student a shirt. Now, because of we didn't receive that grant because it was gone the next year, that's when you have to get creative. So we're at the point now, how are we going to get students shirts in next year? We didn't do it last year other than for our 5th graders. And for all of you middle school and probably elementary and I guess high school, our students physically change quite often, correct? So the shirt they wore last year, more likely they're not going to fit next year. How do we address that? So then that's when I threw out, what can it hurt other than my superintendent being mad at me every Monday? $100. Right now, we have 22 staff members that have committed yes or no. 17 are saying yes. I'm going to start out before I go into next year with $1,700. What does that do? That gets me the shirts possibly. It gets me some prizes. It gets me signage. And when I say cost, it costs the district nothing, because every single penny that comes to us from the staff or from students for like we have electronic day or some other pie in the face, that's just money that's coming to us that's going right back to them. So the first year we were only able to do all of that because of the grant. But now that we have the signage kind of in place, now we're looking at how can we piece together to continue to sustain it. And that's where you have to get creative based off of your own opportunity.
What do you feel like was the biggest change agent for some of your staff that were naysayers? Because at the secondary level, it's a lot of like, well, why are we acknowledging kids who should know how to behave? They're in high school. So what do you feel like made the biggest impact to increase that understanding amongst your staff?
That's a loaded question, but a great question. I think just constant communication and check-in and sharing with them. I'm going to say the first couple weeks, I'm not sure about some of the buy-in from the naysayers, but as they saw the culture change from the students and as they continued to buy in because they were receiving these incentives, they started to see a change quickly. Because my fear, and maybe I can speak for the whole team here, is what happens if the change did not occur with the students? If the change didn't occur with the students, I would have lost the staff quickly. So it was constant communication. Yeah, we are down constant. So we have the minor referrals, which is something you should take into consideration for your reteaching, and then you want to see how that information looks like for your major office referrals. And I want to say we dropped 40%, especially after year one. So we're actually increasing with staff engagement and buy-in, because from one year to the next we're down 40% in office referrals.
And I think too, the enthusiasm from the students. I think some of the staff didn't anticipate that the students would take to it so well, and so once they started to see that, they bought it. They started to realize that it was making a difference. So, especially if you can get some students kind of talking about it, building it up, the ones that are really excited about it. Like that video, we found those kids that were excited about it, put that together, showed the school board, and that helped. The kids actually helped drive the program.
And just be transparent, right? I mean, that's what you do. How can you get staff to buy in? Open communication, remain transparent, let the staff have a voice. So we strategically pick the people that was on our core team to get that naysayer. You saw that one quote up there. That was a male staff member that was one of our biggest challenges over the last probably 15 years. And we saw him turn around. If I can turn him around, I can probably turn anyone else around. So it's just being strategic, being open through the process.
Sometimes when we pick those people, we're like, sometimes it's difficult for the group because you're trying to work with that person. But when you can get that one person to buy in and be like positive about it, it wears off on everybody else on the staff. And it was almost like a chain reaction effect, because we got him going, and then he started talking to the other staff members in his grouping, and it got them on board. And once that happened, we were good to go.
Thank you. Any other questions? Probably one more from the group here, because I know it's that time. Yep.
Okay. What role does student feedback play in terms of planning for future stuff? Do you use student council? Do you have a student leadership committee, something like that?
Great. That's another great question. So we are just getting our student advisory committee together right now. We had a little bit of that in place. I was at a conference earlier not a conference, excuse me, a session earlier this morning. They had the ladder with the student buy-in. It was a great presentation to that school. We were still pretty low. So this year, actually, we just had our staff elect 4 or 5 students, and we're going to be meeting with them. Because right now, that refresher idea that I was talking about, I felt like we're losing some student engagement right now. So I need to refresh this program and get it moving in the right direction. So I need the students to have a voice so then they can go out and advocate for the program. And the student survey is being filled out next week. So that's, I think that'll be a good step for us. But we were a little late with that process. But guys, thank you so much for your time. We do have the pamphlet up here if you'd like to see it, but thank you and good luck to every one of you.